I am here doing my video for my family relations class. I wanted to go over just a couple things from each lesson that I really liked. From lesson 6, it asks from the reflective questions, it says, why is it important to have a clear understanding of your vision and the problem, goals, and objectives for your Family Life Educator program before assessing the Family Life Educator program? So I really liked this. I mean, it seems kind of like a dumb question at first, but then when you really think about it, if we don't know what our goal is, what type of success or change that we're trying to have from this program, then we really have no idea what we're really looking for to actually assess when the program is finished. So we'll be looking for something that is almost unrecognizable, and you can't really do anything with it. How do you know if the cookies taste good if you don't even know that you're supposed to be tasting the cookies, kind of a thing? So I really liked what they said in the text about by setting a vision, we can know what the goal is and therefore assess whether or not it was attained or even attainable, even possible. And I think this also can factor into what we do in our actual family relations project, so where we are working with other people, and basically in the beginning when they first filled out that questionnaire, they typed up all these things that they're interested in, and that's what we are. We work with them on those things and try to get a goal or a vision with them, and then at the end of the program, then they can see what they've learned. So it's basically the same. But then if you think about like our courses, whether in college or grade school, high school, whatever, in fact, when you sign up for your classes through school, they have the learning outcomes, and even some professors have the learning outcomes for each lesson throughout the semester, and you can see those are the outcomes, those are the same as the vision. I mean, what you're trying to accomplish, and therefore then at the end of the lesson or the end of the class, you could see, oh, did I learn these things? And then when you go back and you do your your mid-course feedback or your conclusion feedback, you can see, did I learn these things? Was this productive and successful for me? So I really like that aspect of that lesson. And then in lesson 7, there were a lot of great questions about the code of ethics that I really liked. I think the code of ethics is a really, really, really good thing to have. Number 1, it said, how can the Family Life Educator Code of Ethics strengthen your practice and the relationships with those whom you teach? And I think just the basic guidelines that it offers helps us to teach our participants in an effective way that's non-biased. I think it's hard to be sensitive to others because everybody's different. Everybody believes something different. Specifically in this program, we're all members of the church, so we can give that gospel perspective and always bring it back to Christ, but that's not necessarily the case with other programs and other schools, or as we go on in our careers, we're not always going to be teaching members of the church. So I think it's important that we remember these guidelines, and just it helps us to remind us to be sensitive of others, whether they may think differently, believe differently, live their life differently, or just act differently. I think it's important that we always go back to that to help us remember to not just be fighting with them the whole time, but to try to see things from their perspective. There were a couple that I really liked. Number 2, and it asks, what specific principles really captured your attention? I really liked number 4. It says, I will help parents and other family members recognize their strengths and work with them to set goals for themselves, children, and others. So I really liked that one. I mean, if, just like we said before, if you can't just go in there and change their problems. They have to learn how to help themselves. That's what you're teaching is you're teaching them coping skills. You're teaching them how to, solve their own problems. And so by going in and creating a vision, like we talked about earlier, you are teaching them how to create that for future issues that they may have. And it reminds me of LDS services. The LDS services, they offer, I think it's 12 counseling sessions, and then that's it. That's it. You're teaching them to be self-sufficient in their emotional aspect of themselves. So I really liked that. And then I also like number 7. I will communicate respectfully and clearly with all family members. And this also, I think, or not quite, I guess. This one I really liked because with our own bias in our head, which we can't get rid of, we just have to kind of push to the side sometimes. And in this instance, you do. But I remember reading a case study about a woman who I think they lived in South Africa or something. I don't remember what country exactly. But the woman had her like 4-year-old son, and whenever they would come to play at the program, he would go play in the kitchen. And the dad found out and was very upset and said, we don't do that in my culture. Men are not in the kitchen. And I would be quite frustrated personally, that the father would just be so rude and blatant and not let his son play with whatever he wanted. So that would be difficult for me, but I think that it's important in this code of ethics that it does tell us that we need to respect everyone and to really not be biased, but to just do our best to go in there and to help them as best we can. I also really like number 10 and 14. I thought that they went well together. Number 10 says, I will include parents, other family members as partners in problem solving and decision making related to program design and implementation. And number 14, it says, I will ensure that all family members have access to and are encouraged to participate in family education. I am reminded of another case study that we were to read about a dad who was abusive to the family. And if he felt threatened at all, then he would pull his daughter and his wife out of the program. And I think what's really important about these two principles in the Code of Ethics is that we, in this specific case study, that we encourage the dad to be a part of it, to ask him what he thinks, to ask him to to add whatever he wants to into the problem solving, something that he wants to learn about, to motivate him to be better, more interested in the program. And then number 3, it says, how is your value system likely to influence how you teach? This, I think, is very difficult, especially working in this program through the class, the Family Relations program. We're all working with members of the church, so our value system is quite similar. But going through the case studies, I think that it's reminding me that it's going to be much more difficult as we get into our careers, that it's hard to get past that. But I think the best way to do it is to just ask them what is most important to them, to figure out their value system, what's most important in a ranking order, so that you can then look at that, put that in your frame of mind, and then try to see things from their perspective and do your best to try to help them in a way that works for them and works for what they believe and how they live their life. So, thank you.